Welcome back to Close Up. This year we are getting to know more prominent Republicans on the national level. The governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, will be in New Hampshire Monday morning for Politics and Eggs. Hutchinson brings an extensive resume to the Granite State, having served as a U.S. attorney, in Congress, as the head of the DEA, and also as Undersecretary of Homeland Security in the administration of President George W. Bush. Governor Hutchinson is connecting with us from Arkansas this morning on Close Up. Thanks for joining us, Governor.
Thank you, Adam. It is great to be with you today.
So I think it's safe to say part of why you're coming here is you're interested in having a say about the direction and future of the Republican Party. So what is your vision for the GOP and a winning conservative message in the years ahead?
Well, that's absolutely right. I'm looking forward to being in New Hampshire, and if you want to have a national message, you need to start in New Hampshire. What a great history of independent thinkers. And whenever I look at the future, it's about our America and about being strong and enhancing freedom and problem solving. And that's what I want the GOP to be about, is looking at the challenges that we face today, that everyday Americans are facing with their budgets, inflation, with energy costs, with the concerns that we have about Ukraine. And let's have serious discussions about those issues based upon principles that we believe in of less government, of a restrained government, but also a strong America that's always led in the world. And so these are topics that are important. And I think that if leaders like myself are out there on the national stage talking about the ideas, then we're going to get away from chaos. We're going to get away from infighting. And that's what America wants, is leaders to be addressing those ideas for the future, and that will help us in 2022, the elections coming up.
Governor, you've already come out and said you don't think former President Trump should be the Republican standard bearer moving forward, particularly given his obsession with these allegations of widespread coordinated fraud in the 2020 election, for which there is still no evidence despite extensive investigations and audits. Do you see Mr. Trump as wrong on style, substance, or both?
Well, it shouldn't be about former President Trump, and I have the habit of answering questions that I'm asked, and I was asked that question about President Trump, and I gave an honest answer, and that's not where I believe our party or our country needs to go down the road. But in terms of substance, I supported much of what the Trump administration did. He had a great team, and whenever you look at the respect that we grew abroad in terms of our relationships with Israel and what was accomplished there. Whenever you look at the new North American Free Trade Agreement, that's obviously very important to New Hampshire with Canada and our trading relationship there. Those are all great policy initiatives that the Trump administration did, obviously tougher on border security. So this is an issue of where do we go in the future? And do we want to dwell upon the chaos of the past? Do we want to dwell upon what happened in the last election? And my answer is no. I want to be about problem solving. I'm served under Ronald Reagan, former president, and I saw his optimism about America, the strength of America. And I'd like to see that for us to return to those principles and those values.
On the question of style, there are certainly Republicans out there trying to imitate the Trump style. What do you think about what's going on down in Florida right now, where Governor Ron DeSantis is on a path to revoking a long-standing special government status given to Disney over a fight over this so-called woke agenda and disagreements over state legislation?
Well, there are a little bit complicated Florida issues there, and you got to give a lot of deference for a governor to lead the state. Governor DeSantis has been a strong leader for Florida economically. My view is that, whatever the underlying issue is, let's not use government to punish the private sector. And that's an important principle. That we might disagree, and I disagree with the way the CEO of Disney handled those issues. I support what the legislature and their approach, but at the same time, we don't need to have government punishing the private sector. That's not what government is about. That's not what restraint of government is about. It's not what freedom is about. And to me, that's what I've done here in Arkansas as governor for 7 years, is unleash the private sector, unleash that growth. And the result is that our economy is booming, creating jobs. The private sector is growing. It's because the government's staying out of their way. And that's more my philosophy.
As you're touching on there, for most people, you know, the real life issues tend to be a lot more pressing. You've been governor of Arkansas for 7 years now. What can you point to when people ask you, hey, you know, what have you done for the people? What have you done to bring jobs back to America that used to provide the kind of stability we had to support a strong family?
Well, of course, we set the stage for job creation by lowering taxes, by improving education, paying our teachers more. We did it by funding infrastructure in our state, all that helps us to grow. But it's also about recruiting industry. And the most recent great story is that Arkansas will soon be the leading steel producing state in the nation, surpassing Pennsylvania, because United States Steel just announced a $3 billion investment in Arkansas to produce steel in a new mill that will be state of the art. So we have a growing economy, and we set the stage for it with government policy that lowered taxes, that is business friendly, lowered the burden of regulation, and all of a sudden people say, this is a place that we can work and prosper, and the government will stay out of our way. We have a $1.2 billion savings account that we never had before, and we have a balanced budget, and that's what business partners want, is for a state to be stable, that they not go into deficit spending, and that they can supply the needs in terms of infrastructure and tax structure that's beneficial to growth.
Governor, the nation's economic dependence on China and global supply chains was exposed during the pandemic. And of course, America owes China a lot of money, I think more than $1 trillion of our national debt now. How do we navigate that obligation in the years ahead, while also not letting the Chinese dictate terms to us over Taiwan and influence in the Pacific more broadly?
This is one of those important topics that we need to be talking about, thinking about. And whenever you look at China, their human rights record is atrocious. Whenever you look at their suppression of freedom, it should cause every American concern. At the same time, it is the second leading economy in the world, and we're intertwined in terms of economics. We need to shift more to the United States. That's one of the reasons that I'm delighted that steel manufacturing is prospering in Arkansas and across the country. And so we've got to recognize that China we have to continue to be a voice for strengthening human rights protection in that country. We need to have a tough trade policy with them to make sure that we can grow our industry here, particularly in the medical field. And we come through the pandemic, we've got to transition more of that production back to the United States. And it is happening because business leaders understand that we've got to produce the United States, and it's better for their business. They avoid the supply chain interruptions. And so this is an example where there's a natural return to the United States, and let's not break down that return. Let's look for ways to encourage that.
You know, China is the long term, obviously. In the short term right now, when we talk about foreign policy, Russia and Ukraine and that war is drawing a lot of attention, and it's an important issue. So do you think the Biden administration has gotten this right so far, or is there more they need to do to support Ukraine?
You know, that's an important point. And first of all, I think the Biden administration has done a good job in pulling Europe together to be more unified in this. It's strengthened NATO. We have got a great armament supply going toward Ukraine. Applaud the administration for that. Obviously, I'd like to see all of this happening about much quicker than what we have seen. And we also have to recognize there's probably a lot on that is not in the public venue, and that's okay. But from every American, I believe, goes to bed at night looking at the news and saying, what more can we do, and should we do more to support those freedom lovers and the sovereign nation of Ukraine against this invasion? I believe we need to do all that we can to support them. This is a human tragedy that we're seeing, and it troubles me that we see some of our conservative side second guessing our support for Ukraine, second-guessing President Zelensky and what he's doing there. My goodness, he's holding the breach against Russia, holding the line against Europe. And if we don't take a stand there, we're not going to be able to have a free Europe and be able to contain Russian aggression, which is their history, and we certainly see it on display now.
In one of your many previous public service lives, you were at the Department of Homeland Security, overseeing border security. Obviously, no one in Washington anymore wants to compromise when it comes to the immigration issue. But in your view, what's the most important thing to fix first before that compromise can come?
Well, we've got to secure the border, and I do believe that we need to fix our immigration laws. We need to make sure we have a legal system that works better. Right now, it is so backed up. And right now, though, whenever you're looking at the flow of migrants, undocumented folks coming across the southern border, it's a human tragedy. It's not just a violation of the rule of law, but you see the human hurt that comes from that. And the message we're sending to Central America, South America is wide open. We're going to lift Title 42, which means that you're going to be able to get asylum. And they're flooding coming in. And so this is not the time to lift the Title 42 public health exception so we can process these migrants for claims on the Mexico side of the border versus bringing them to the United States and catch and release policy. We've got to have a tougher position there. That's why I've joined 25 other governors and asking the Biden administration, let's work with you to strengthen the border, to put Title 42, to continue it until we get a better alternative. We've got to be able to secure that. Arkansas, many other states really get flooded with the drugs coming across the border, including fentanyl, that kills our young people, our young adults, and we've got to be able to secure that.
Before we go, just want to ask you quickly, you've not ruled out when asked previously a run for president in 2024. Where do you stand in that unique decision-making process?
Well, the time will be after the 2022 elections, but it would be an obvious fact to state that I'm going to be in New Hampshire because I'm concerned about our national direction. And yes, I'm concerned about 2024. And if you want to have a message that resonates, then you need to be in New Hampshire, and I'm coming because you're independent, you think through these issues, and I think that's an example for the nation. So I'm wide open there. It's something under consideration. We'll see how that develops.
All right, Governor Asa Hutchinson, we'll see you at Politics and Eggs on Monday morning.
Looking forward to it.